every day I did around 200, 300 questions, and when I didn't understand something at all, I jumped back to the books, because you have a lot of calculations there. You need to really understand what you are calculating, and you need to know it. I practiced at home a lot with the timer, and I knew how to manage it. Of course, your mind can work 24/7, so I really tried to distract myself by going out for a walk, for bike, or exercise in the gym, or sometimes I also went to fly to build my hours and answer as many questions as you can every day, simply clicking and reading the explanations and so on. And then few days before the exams, just try the atmosphere and the time press from the time limit.
Hi, Tomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. I feel so excited about our conversation, but before we jump into questions, I'd like to ask you to say a few words about yourself, your pilot career path, and what you're devoted to right now.
Alright, so I'm a commercial pilot that passed the skill test last year, and since that moment I'm looking for a job. I'm a job seeker right now. Unfortunately, unsuccessful yet, but I already passed a few pilot assessments and I'm in holding pool right now, so I'm waiting for my chance. And in the meantime, I'm also doing the social media stuff. I started some projects with aviation, and I'm also involved in some other projects. So I'm mainly focusing on social media and marketing right now.
In your opinion, are there any prerequisites or recommended knowledge areas that would be beneficial to have before you set on your student pilot journey?
I don't think so that you need to have some special abilities or special knowledge before training a flight school or starting the flight training at all, because only thing that is useful, I guess, it's language knowledge, English mainly because it's the main language in aviation. Also, other languages are really useful as well. And if you have any basic knowledge about the physics, math, and some aviation, it's useful, but it's not necessary, I guess.
Before we delve into the topic of ATPL ground schools, I'd like to encourage you to click the thumbs up button and follow us if you enjoy this interview format. This will help us understand if this video is interesting to you. We will then continue producing more interviews with ATPL students, and YouTube will assist us in reaching a wider audience. Thank you for your support, and let's get back to Tomas now. What are the important factors that aspiring pilots should consider when selecting a ground school? How did you go about choosing your ground school? Were there any specific criteria or considerations that guided your decision?
Choosing ATPL ground school for me was quite simple, because I decided to do the flight training in one training facility and one particular flight school, but I think that you should focus on the platform the school is using, the education platform, and the online environment that they are using, simply the software and so on, because also the quality of the instructors and the education generally is also the aspect that I consider when I chose my school and my ground school. Another aspect to consider is the scheme of the self-study and also the ground school on site, because when you don't understand something correctly, you need to ask someone, and when you have just self-study scheme, it's not very good.
I'd also like to discuss the learning strategy. Each individual has a unique learning style. What study techniques or approaches did you find most effective in retaining and understanding the vast amount of information required for the ATPL exams?
From the beginning, I mainly focused on studying books and the knowledge generally, because I wanted to deeply understand each subject. And when I read the books, I thought that I understand slightly the subject. I jumped onto the question banks and I practiced the questions. Every day I did around 200, 300 questions, and when I didn't understand something at all, I jumped back to the books. But first was reading books, get the knowledge, understand, and then jump on the question bank. Some student pilots are going for the question banks at the first place, and they don't understand properly the subject, and that's not a good approach from my point of view.
Which subjects did you find easiest in the ATPL exams, and why?
Easiest one for me was ELO and operational procedures, because you don't have to really understand it and you don't need to calculate anything. You just need to study and learn by heart the things. So it was easy for me because I like when I have information, I studied it, I know it, I remember it, and then I apply it. That's why it was the easiest subject for me.
Which subject was the most challenging for you, and how did you overcome it?
General navigation subject was the hardest one, as usually it is for the other student pilots, because you have a lot of calculations there. You need to really understand what you are calculating, and you need to know it really deeply. And sometimes there is just a small mistake and you cannot continue calculating.
It can also be quite time consuming when you have to calculate something, right? Could you share your experience on how you managed your time effectively during the exam sittings?
In Polish CAA, where I was passing my ATPL exams, when you enter the room, you will open the subjects and you see if you have some annexes or attachments for the subjects you are passing. And to get these attachments, the best way how to get them is to write them down, go to the lady that is supervising there, and they are printing them. So they were printing the annexes, and in the meantime I did all the examples that I didn't need annexes for, from the simplest ones to the hardest ones with the annexes. And I also look for the timer. I practiced at home a lot with the timer and I knew how to manage it. So I simply did all these questions that are simple and I know for sure, and then I moved to the questions that I wasn't sure about on 100%, or I needed to calculate, they were time consuming, or there was some complicated calculation with annex or something like that.
Could you describe a typical day for you when you were studying for the ATPL exams? What was your routine like? And how did you manage your time effectively to cover all the necessary subjects?
In the morning, I focused on some subjects for 2 or 3 hours. Then I had a rest, pause for the lunch, and I also exercised or did something else than studying. And then in the afternoon, I started studying again, and I studied till the late evening, because I think that it's really important to have something else than studying all day, because of course your mind can work 24/7. So I really tried to distract myself by going out for a walk, for bike, or exercise in the gym, or sometimes I also went to fly to build my hours, because I did ATPL theory, and during that I also did my hour building. Also I had a job during that ATPL theory. I worked remotely. I focused on something else than just on studying ATPL.
Did you use any specific time management techniques while preparing?
Yes, I used, it's called Pomodoro technique. I used that when I was studying, for example, general navigation and radio navigation as well. You are 25 minutes focusing on something, and then you have the 5 minutes break. And it helps you to concentrate and focus on something. And it doesn't matter if it was calculation or simply studying some information.
You have already told us about the way you used a question bank for your studies. I would like to remind our audience about it. First, Tomas studied the theory using books. And once he realised he understood the concepts, he started practicing with questions. If he encountered difficulties with certain questions, he would refer back to the theory materials. I agree that using a question bank from day one is essential. Let's delve into this further. Could you elaborate on what features are important to you in a question bank? What factors should aspiring pilots consider when choosing an ATPL question bank?
I'd say that the explanation thing is the most important, because a lot of questions are quite similar. Every question has also 10 or 20 similar questions in the question bank. And what you need to have is the knowledge and someone or something, some system that will explain you how to solve these questions, because otherwise you will be just clicking and memorizing. So I'd say very well prepared explanation is the key in the question bank. When you don't understand some questions, you will just open explanation, you will read it, you will understand, and you will memorize and pass this question. In the first moment, you need to study the knowledge, as I mentioned earlier. Then you need to move to question bank and just try it and answer as many questions as you can every day, simply clicking and reading the explanations and so on. And then few days before the exam, just try the atmosphere and the time press from the time limit.
Looking back at your ATPL exam preparation, is there anything you would have done differently? Any lessons learned that you can share with us?
First of all, I would change my mindset because I was really stressed out because of the ATPL exams. I wanted to have the highest percentage as I could, and I was simply putting myself into the pressure before exams. I was studying too hard and really often till the late evenings and so on. Maybe right now I wouldn't study too hard, but rather smarter. I would study without the stress pressure. Maybe slightly better time management. Also, maybe consider purchasing subscription in other platforms than I used, because right now there are new ones on market that have better features, better explanations. So I would definitely change these ones. But in general, I think that I managed that quite successfully, and I'm satisfied at the end.
Would you prioritize some particular subjects over the others?
I wouldn't, honestly, but all subjects are equally important. It's true that some of them are easier, some of them are more difficult, but I tried to manage it so that I focus equally on every subject, and I wanted to be sure that I'm going to pass it. So when I felt that I need more time in some subjects, I focused on that. But this is what everyone needs to feel personally and consider by themselves.
Based on your experience and success in passing the ATPL exams, what advice would you give to someone who is currently preparing for these exams?
Don't focus just on question banks, but dig deep into the knowledge. Try to understand as many informations as you can, because you don't need it just for the ATPL exams. You need it for the pilot assessment after and later for your career. So use that time that you have for studying and try to understand as many things as you can.
What difficulties are you facing while trying to secure a job as a pilot?
It's the time when airlines are slowly hiring cadet pilots again, but it's really difficult to get into that as non-type rated and low time. So right now I'm facing difficulties that I passed some first stages in the pilot assessments, but I'm still in the holding pool waiting for my chance, because of course there are still type rated or more experienced pilot on the market after COVID-19. So I'm still waiting for my chance simply and trying to use it for the studying. I try to prepare myself as much as I can.
Are there any specific strategies or resources that you are using to prepare yourself for the job search, for pilot assessments, and for your future career?
I am searching for the opportunities on the websites of the airlines, also on some specific websites for the pilot jobs. And also I'm trying to network, so I'm in touch with the guys that I met on the pilot assessments that got the job already, or my friends from the flight school that I met during my flight training. So I'm trying to stay in touch with them, get some information about upcoming pilot assessments or some job openings and so on. And in the meantime, I'm trying to stay in loop with studying ATPL questions. I have also the simulator at home, so time to time I am sometimes practicing on the simulator, and also I'm practicing my my knowledge and the skills on the aptitude tests that are also part of the pilot assessments. I'm using this strategy to stay in touch with aviation in the meantime when I'm waiting for my chance.
Tomas, thank you for taking the time to share your insights and experience with us. Your journey in the aviation industry and your valuable advice on ATPL exams and pilot career preparation have been truly enlightening. We appreciate your willingness to contribute and wish you continued success in your job search and future endeavours as a pilot. Make sure to check the video description below for links to Tomas's social media accounts. You can connect with him there to stay updated on his pilot career journey, gain further insights, and engage in discussions related to aviation. You'll also find links to the Airhead question bank in the description. With Airhead, you gain access to the questions in 4 major banks in one membership. This allows you to compare various wordings and study with detailed explanations, which Tomas emphasized as crucial for effective preparation. Airhead also offers timed exams to simulate the pressure of real exams. You can track your progress, receive score predictions, create custom collections to organize your studies, and most importantly, get notified when any new exam feedback questions come in to any of the major banks. Sign up today to start your free trial.